That's a lot of resonance when you wail on that thing. I'm waiting for it to. Okay, that's good enough. Good morning, and welcome to worship at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura. I am Pastor Eric Halseth. I use he, they pronouns. And welcome to everyone here in the sanctuary, and welcome to everyone on Zoom wherever you may be in the world. Whether you've been attending this church for decades or it's your first time here, I am glad you have joined us. This community is the special place that it is precisely because it is made up of people with many beliefs, identities, origins, sexualities, and genders, and all are welcome here. Announcements. The men's Fifth Tuesday potluck and supper and discussion is happening on Tuesday, March 31st at 6 p.m. in Berg Hall. Is there a poem, song, piece of art, souvenir, old letter, good luck charm, or keepsake that is particularly meaningful to you? The attendees are invited to share a story about anything that holds special importance in your life. Bring an item to share, or just tell a story about a meaningful experience or event. All ages and points of view are welcome. If you are not inclined to share something verbally, you can just sit and listen. It's not a requirement to speak. For more information, contact Gary Zinnick. Next Sunday, Keola Whitaker will be in the pulpit with his own UUE Awards that shine a light on the connection between Unitarian Universalist history and values with Hollywood and the Oscars. Yes. If you want to watch the Oscars and their nominations first, or come and be surprised and perhaps inspired, we hope you will join us. And of course, let me remind you to refer to the rest of the announcements that would be in our weekly email message, UUCV this week, that if you are not signed up for, you can easily sign up just by putting your name on the visitor list up front, and Jen will add you to the list, or you can send her an email. Our land acknowledgement lifts up the Chumash of Ventura, who have stewarded their ancestral and unceded territory for at least the last 11,000 years. This service takes place on the very same land. We honor their ancestors, elders, and descendants as they continue their deep spiritual and cultural connection to these lands and waters. Courage is a curious thing. So is renewal. We grow when we are brave enough, when we have courage enough to step away from our normal path. "I can't believe that," said Alice. "Can't you?" the Queen said in a pitying tone. "Try again. Draw a long breath and shut your eyes. Shut your eyes, step forward, and have courage. This is a sacred path, and this is a sacred space. May it be so."
Good morning. I am Worship Associate Xenia Young, and we light the chalice this morning with Luciano's eager help. It is a symbol of hope and safety, and friends at home are invited to light a candle or a chalice of your own as Pastor Eric and Luciana lights ours. Good job. Well done. Our call to worship this morning are words spoken by Gandalf the Grey, or the Great, about his friend Bilbo Baggins. Some believe it is only great power that can hold evil in check, but that is not what I have found. It is the small, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay. Small acts of kindness and love. Why Bilbo Baggins? Perhaps I am afraid, and he gives me courage. In another passage, Gandalf says of Bilbo's hidden potential, there is a lot more in him than you guess, and a deal more than he has any idea himself. And finally, even the smallest person can change the course of the future. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning, y'all. I invite you all to rise in body and spirit as we all sing number 38, Morning Has Broken. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, strong in completeness of the sweet grass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, Eden's soft flame. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
Yeah, and now I would like to invite all of our young folks, or young at heart, to join me for the story. Gather up the donations for Ride Alliance 805 and Poder Popular as you come to the front.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Today's story is called Miobi, the boy who understood fear, and it is from Ethiopia. So it's not a Buddhist wisdom tale. Whoa. And it's a little bit longer, so I'm going to do my best to make it entertaining, but I also shortened the sermon appropriately. Once upon a time, there lived a boy who was extremely shy and fearful of the world around him. And his friends and family called him Miobi, the frightened one. Miobi hated it when his friends made fun of him about this, so one day he decided that it was time to vanquish fear. That night, when everyone was fast asleep, he snuck away from the village. After walking several miles in the dark, Miobi lay down and slept under the night sky. Before falling asleep, he whispered to himself, "Fear, I seek to understand and vanquish you." Around midnight, the wolves began to howl, And Miyobi awoke, so afraid that he wanted to run home. But he remembered that he had left home to vanquish fear. And he also realized that what he was feeling right then and there was nothing but fear. So instead of running away, Miyobi decided to walk toward the sound of the howling wolves, because they were very far away, actually. And the whole time he was muttering, "I will vanquish you, fear." He walked until the sun came up, and then he smiled with relief because he had never seen the wolves. For he had survived his first night alone, too. More importantly, he didn't give in to his fear. He didn't run back home. "I am becoming brave," he said as he walked on. Soon he came to a village and he was worried. "I don't know these people. They might not like strangers." As soon as he thought about it, he knew he was just being afraid again. But he said to himself, "I will vanquish you, fear." He walked into the village square and saw the village elders gathered together and looking worried about something as they talked. As Miyobi walked up to them, he turned and said, they turned and said rudely, "We're busy. Who are you? And what are you doing here?" "I'm on a journey to vanquish fear and become brave," Miyobi answered. The elders laughed wryly and scoffed at Miyobi. "Nobody can find bravery where it does not exist." "What do you mean?" Miyobi asked. The elders as a group let out a big sigh. "We are in trouble," said one elder. "Our village is being threatened by a creature from up on the mountain." They all pointed. "And we don't have anyone who has the courage to go and fight the creature and save us." Miyobi followed the elder's gaze to the top of the mountain. "See him there?" an old man said. Miyobi squinted and looked hard for the creature. He didn't want to insult the elder, but he saw nothing there. "Look," said another elder, "see, it has the head of a crocodile, a monstrous crocodile. And its body is as horrible as a hippopotamus," another elder said, "a gigantic, dangerous hippopotamus." "It's like a dragon," another man cried, "with fire shooting from its snout." With all these descriptions, Miyobi began to see the creature with his imagination. He began to see the smoke and the fire, the wrinkled skin of the hippopotamus, and the fierce eyes and teeth of the crocodile. "Wow, that is quite a creature," he said to the elders, but silently he promised himself he would not be afraid. Excusing himself, he walked away from the gathering of elders and into the village, and everywhere people poked their heads out of doors and windows to see this stranger walking through the village. That would be Miyobi. The children hid inside, refusing to go to school because of the creature. Their parents told Miyobi about the dangers of the creature and warned him that a little boy like him should not be walking around. The farmers hovered in their doorways. "We cannot work," they called out. "If we go into the fields, the creature will come down from the mountain and get us." Miyobi saw wandering goats, sheep, and cows all around, but no one came to milk the animals or tend to them. No one planted crops. Few left their homes. Everybody just hid. "The creature is as big as 10 barges on the river," they whispered to Miyobi as he walked past. "The creature is going to destroy us." After listening to all this, Miyobi felt fear creeping into his thoughts. Images of the creature dancing in his mind. And then he remembered why he was even on this journey, so he returned to the elders and asked them to call a meeting of the whole village. "I wish to vanquish my fear and learn how to be brave," he announced, "and so I shall go and I will confront the creature." "No, don't do it," the elders cried. Children gathered around him trying to stop him from leaving. They made like a wall. Adults shook their head and warned, "You're going to get hurt." Miyobi shivered and his heart fluttered, but he was determined. "I must vanquish my fear," he said, and set off toward the mountain. At the base of the mountain, he looked up at the peak and he felt a chill of the fear that had been following him. The creature looked even bigger and fiercer than any dragon, faster than a hippo chasing a boat in a river, and scarier than a crocodile hiding along the shore of that river. But he remembered the fear he had felt during his journey and how he had nevertheless continued on. Miyobi took a deep breath and began to climb up the mountain. It was a steep mountain. And as he climbed, he looked up, but now he saw the creature was not getting any bigger. "How peculiar," he said. "My eyes must be deceiving me." And he continued to climb. When he was halfway up the mountain, he looked again at the creature. He squinted, shielding his eyes, but the creature's eyes no longer seemed so fierce, and the flames no longer shot from its snout. "The closer I get, the smaller the creature looks," Miyobi thought puzzlingly. He continued climbing, though he found a strong stick so he could defend himself against the creature. As he crested the last part of the mountain, with the summit before him, he gasped. The creature was nowhere to be seen. Miyobi turned and looked behind him. Surely the creature was going to attack him from behind, but he saw nothing and heard nothing. He held his breath, looking left and right, but the summit was empty and quiet. Nothing was there. Suddenly he heard a sound at his feet. He looked down and saw a little creature, like a toad, with wrinkled skin and round, frightened eyes. He bent down and picked it up. "Who are you?" he asked. "Are you the creature who's been threatening the village?" But the creature said nothing. And so he cradled it in his hand and began walking back to the village. When he reached the village, the people saw him and they cried, "He's safe, he made it!" Miyobi opened his hand and showed them the tiny wrinkled toad. "I think this is the creature," he said. An elder bent down and looked closely at it. And then the elder asked it, "What is your name?" The little creature gave a rough croaking sound. The elder straightened, turned to the crowd, and said, "Miyobi has brought us the creature." The people drew in closer. "And its name," said the elder, "is Fear." The crowd grew quiet. For a moment, no one spoke, and then they began to understand. The creature that had seemed so huge, so terrible, so impossible to face had become small the moment it was named. And Miyobi did not forget what he had learned. After a time of rest, he gathered his things and set out again on the road. There were still new places to explore, new people to meet, and new fears to face. But this time, Miyobi knew that fear does not have to be in charge. Fear can seem enormous when we run from it, but much smaller when we turn around, look at it, and call it by its name. So that is part of Miyobi's lesson for us. Brave people are not people who never feel afraid. Brave people are people who keep going even when fear comes along for the journey. And that is our story for today. Let us sing our children out to class through the bridge of love. If you're new, just follow along, and please own your personal space as makes you comfortable.
Each Sunday, this congregation gives away the entire collection, gifting it to an organization that does meaningful work in the larger community or to funds that support people in our own church. This practice is one of the many ways that we live our values and put them into action, sharing what we have to care for others. Folks who are here in the sanctuary can text to give by following the number on the screen, or can drop a check or cash in the box on the back wall of the sanctuary, either during the offertory music or after the service. Today, our offering goes to Ventura Homeless Prevention to keep people free from the double traumas of eviction and homelessness. Last year, this organization kept 254 of our neighbors in their homes, and already this year has prevented eviction and homelessness for an additional 35 adults and 17 children. In over a third of the cases, these people needed help because they had been out of work, had used up their savings, or had exhausted temporary help from family and friends. They had lost their jobs or work hours because their employer went out of business or needed to reduce costs. They had missed work because they were in the hospital or were bedridden for weeks or months or were struggling after a death in the family. In a few instances, they were unable to pay their rent because a spouse or a roommate had suddenly moved out without paying their share. Sometimes a major expense like car repair can lead to many, many problems. In every instance, by the time Ventura Homeless Prevention provided assistance, these people had returned to or found new full-time work, had qualified for long-term assistance, or had found a new roommate. Ventura Homeless Prevention helped with that 1 month, and they were ready to pay their own rent once again. There's every indication that like over 90% of the people assisted by Ventura Homeless Prevention since 2007, they will be in their homes also 1 year later. You can help keep people housed by giving generously as you always do. And you can see Sue Brinkmeyer, their president, at the Connecting Center after the service if you'd like to help in other ways or want to attend the event they will host here in Burke Hall on April 18th. Please give generously, as always, to allow this meaningful work to continue.
If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place in time again. If not now, tell me when. I see sorrow and trouble in this land. I see sorrow and trouble in this land. Although there will be struggle, we'll make the change we can. If not now, tell me when.
If not now, tell me when.
If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place in time again. If not now, tell me when. I may never see the promised land. I may never see the promised land. And yet we'll take the journey
And
we'll walk it hand in hand. If not now, tell me when. We'll work until it's done. Every daughter, every son, every soul that ever longed for something better, something brighter. It will take a change of heart for this to mend. It will take a change of heart for this to mend. But miracles do happen every shining now and then.
If not now, tell me when.
If not now,
Tell me when.
If not now, tell me when.
Tell me
We
when.
may never see this moment or place in time again.
If not now,
tell me when.
And happen every shining now and then. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when.
Oh, thank you for that. That was lovely. We celebrate the generosity of this congregation whose giving spirit creates a world that's both more just and more loving. And each week, we take a few moments to pause in the middle of our busy lives to notice what is shaping us right now. The joys that lift us, the sorrows that feel heavy, the quiet moments that might not look much from the outside, but matter deeply to us. When we share these parts of our lives, we remember something important. We're not walking this road alone. This week, there were no joys or sorrows submitted, but we know we all carry joys and sorrows in our hearts, whether from our own lives or from what is happening out in the world. So I invite you now to speak into the gathered community or write into the Zoom chat the names of those you wish to celebrate, to remember, or those who are in need of the loving embrace of this beloved community. Pastor Eric will now place one final stone in the water for all that has been spoken, because what touches one of us reaches all of us, and for all that still remains quiet in our hearts. May we be grateful for all that sustains us on this shared journey, and for the ways we walk alongside one another in joy, in sorrow, and in all the spaces in between.
Please remain seated as we learn a brand new hymn from our brand new virtual hymnal, the Sing Out Love hymnal. This one's called Loosen, and some of you already know this one, I think.
Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Holy breath and holy name. Will you ease this pain?
Here comes the fun part where we try to do this as a round. Okay. Here we go. So you choose a part, the loosen, loosen, baby, or just the holy breath. 2, 3, 4.
Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go.
Once more.
Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go.
Today's reading is from Through the Looking Glass, What Alice Found There by Lewis Carroll. Only it's so very lonely here, Alice said in a melancholy voice, as the thought of her loneliness, 2 large tears came rolling down her cheeks. Oh, don't go on like that, cried the poor queen, wringing her hands in despair. Consider what a great girl you are. Consider what a long way you've come today. Consider what o'clock it is. Consider anything, only don't cry. Alice could not help laughing at this, even in the midst of her tears. Can you keep from crying by considering things? She asked. That's the way it's done, the queen said with great decision. Nobody can do two things at once, you know. Let's consider your age to begin with. How old are you? I'm 7.5, exactly. You didn't need to say exactly, the queen remarked. I can believe it without that. Now I will give you something to believe. I'm just 101 5 months and a day. I can't believe that, said Alice. Can't you? The queen said in a pitying tone. Try again and draw a long breath and shut your eyes. Alice laughed. There's no use trying, she said. One can't believe impossible things. I dare say you haven't had much practice, said the queen. When I was your age, I always did it for a half hour a day. Why, sometimes I believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. There goes my shawl again. The brooch had come undone as she spoke, and a sudden gust of wind blew the queen's shawl across the brook. The queen spread out her arms again and went flying after it, and this time she succeeded in catching it for herself. I've got it, she cried in a triumphant tone. Now you shall see me pin it on again, all by myself. Then I hope your finger is better now, Alice said politely, as she crossed the little brook after the queen.
I invite you now into a time of meditation with words from Cole Arthur Riley. Place your feet upon the floor, close your eyes if you wish, and breathe in and breathe out, noticing your breath both as it comes in and it goes out. As you inhale, say to yourself, to love and be loved. As you exhale, say to yourself, my purpose remains. As you inhale, say to yourself, I don't know what my path is. As you exhale, say to yourself, but I am led to freedom. As you inhale, say to yourself, I listen to the divine. As you exhale, say to yourself, my soul whispers back. Relax in this moment and just breathe.
a column of numbers I just could not understand. You said add these together, carry the two. Now you
can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know, but I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing.
At a cold winter station, breathing into our gloves. This could change me forever, leaving for who knows what. You carried my bags, you said I'll wait for you.
You can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know, but I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing.
Late at night I called and you answered the phone. The worst it had happened and I did not want to be alone. You quietly listened, you said we'll see this through.
You can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know, but I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing.
Here we stand breathless and pressed in hard times, hearts hung like laundry on backyard clotheslines. Impossible just takes a little more time. From the muddy ground comes a green volunteer. In a place we thought barren, new life appears.
Morning will come whistling, some comforting tune for you. You can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know, but I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing.
How many of you were children once? Good. I think almost 100% participation. Do you remember that time in your life when we knew for a fact that the things we imagined could be real, that they were real? We knew how to imagine things that adults might call unrealistic. We imagined adventures. We imagined fantastical worlds. We imagined what we would be when we grew up. We imagined that after we took our father's electric razor apart down to every last little piece that we could put it together again. We could not. We might have imagined friends. We might have imagined frightful things. Children often begin with an imagined possibility that they are sure can be made real, that is real. But somewhere along the way, we often learn something else. We learn to lower our expectations of what can be. We learn to call our hopes unrealistic. We learn to make mature decisions, the right decisions. It's possible that when this happens, we've mistaken cynicism for wisdom. The world does its best to teach us this. We go to school and find it's easier to follow a linear path than to wander a bit. Stop daydreaming, the teacher says. You have to pay attention if you want to learn. Conformity can be easier than being true to ourselves. And over time, maybe the disbelief that others expressed toward us, maybe that became our inner voice. That is part of what makes the scene between Alice and the White Queen so striking. Alice says, quite reasonably, that she cannot believe impossible things. And the White Queen replies, in effect, that belief takes practice. She says that when she was younger, she spent, actually the exact same age as Alice. She had practiced for 30 minutes a day, believing as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. It's one of those many wonderfully weird moments in Alice's saga, in this case from Through the Looking Glass, that is playful, strange, and whimsical. But beneath the whimsy is a truth that feels like it directly addresses this idea that we grow into our cynicism as we grow up. The White Queen is not really inviting Alice into nonsense for its own sake. She is inviting her into practice, into the practice of using her imagination, into the practice of opening her mind and heart beyond the limits of what seems possible, or normal, or predestined. This should matter to us because impossible things do not always stay impossible. Impossible things might simply be the thing that we haven't tried to believe in yet. Impossibility might simply be a byproduct of our lost habit of using our imaginations. And we may feel like we've lost the habit of dreaming or of wandering off the path, or feel that we were taught that it was impractical and it's not useful. The voice inside of us might be saying, hope equals naivete. Courage is for that person over there. I can't have a new life that is different from the old one. Feelings of joy lead to calamity. Change is unlikely, so why bother? Calling to a greater good is for the gifted and privileged few. The world is static, and we should get used to it. But the sacred asks something different of us. And don't get stuck on the word sacred. Interpret it as it works for you. The sacred asks us not only to look at the world as it is, but also to ask what it might yet become. The sacred asks us to imagine healing where there is hurt, justice where there is cruelty, welcome where there is exclusion, and courage where there is fear. And that brings us to Niobe from the children's story. In the Ethiopian wisdom tale, Niobe is not fearless. He's a scared little kid. He fears the world, not taking a step forward to change things until he does. Stepping toward the thing that we fear has been a common theme lately on Sunday mornings. It's March, Courage and Renewal. I've often found in my own life that it's easier to say no, and don't worry, I'm not encouraging you to say no. Please take care of yourselves and use the sacred no as often as you need to. But there are times when saying yes frees us to do something that moves us down the path toward bravery, toward courage. When I worked at eBay, I was asked to present a report on our consumer segments, specifically the people who came to eBay to buy ordinary, everyday things rather than to sell things, for example, or buy expensive cars, trucks, and motorcycles, that kind of thing, or operate in some other weird corner of the marketplace that isn't just buying things. And the audience for that presentation was not a small team or a familiar conference room. It was eBay, the company, all of it. At the time, it felt enormous. It felt like one of those moments that grows larger in your mind the more you look at it. I was anxious. I could feel the size of that audience, that it was going to press in on me. And with it, the fear of getting something wrong in front of a few thousand employees. But I did it anyway. And in that experience, I began to learn what Myobi learns in his own way. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is discovering that fear doesn't make decisions for us. Or to borrow from Alice, perhaps it was one of my own impossible things before breakfast. To stand in front of a group of people that felt much too big for me, and to find that I could do it. Over time, I became braver in those situations, not because the stakes got any smaller, but because I learned I could carry my fear and still speak clearly, still stand tall, and still do what was mine to do. That is often how it is in each of our lives. Fear grows when it is hidden. Fear grows when it is unnamed. Fear grows when it rules from the shadows. Fear rules from unclimbed mountaintops. But sometimes the first act of courage is simply to say its name. I am afraid of failure. I am afraid of rejection. I'm afraid that I am too old or too young, too late to the game, too wounded, or too ordinary. I'm afraid that if I hope again, I will be hurt again. I am afraid that if I dream again, someone will laugh. I am afraid that if I answer a calling, I may not be enough for that calling. But we should acknowledge that there are times when courage is not a matter of pushing harder through the fear. Think about the hymn we sang earlier, Ali Halpert's Loosen. There are times when courage begins by loosening. Loosening the grip of old stories we have been told, the old ways of being. Loosening shame from our shoulders. Loosening the body where pain has settled in. Loosening the clenched places in ourselves that say, do not risk, nor hope, nor dream. Stay safe, stay quiet, stay small. Sometimes the reason we cannot imagine impossible things is not because we are cynical or lack faith in ourselves, but because we have been carrying too much for too long. Too much disappointment in the past, too much grief, too much criticism, too much certainty from other people about who we are and what is possible for us. And maybe one of the sacred tasks before us is not simply to become bolder, but to become freer. Freer in body, in heart, in imagination, and especially hope. Because hope is not always loud. Sometimes hope is very quiet. Sometimes hope sounds like this. Maybe I can begin again. Maybe this hurt is not the end of me. Maybe my calling in life is real. Maybe joy is still possible. Maybe I can be afraid and still move forward. Maybe healing will come, not all at once, but enough for the next step in my life. Maybe this church can become even more alive, even more loving, even more brave. Maybe the world does not have to remain exactly as it is. Those are not small things. Those are impossible things, at least to the part of us that has been trained to let go of our imaginations. The White Queen is right about this. Imagination takes practice, and that is the invitation before us this morning, to practice. Practice imagining one thing beyond the limits of what we have accepted. Practice refusing the voices that tell us who we are and who we are not. Practice naming our fears so that we can turn toward them and not away from them. Practice loosening what has tightened within us. Practice believing that courage may still grow in us, even now in our lives. And maybe not 6 impossible things. 1 may be enough to begin. 1 impossible thing before breakfast. 1 small act of courage. 1 conversation you have been afraid to have. 1 dream you've been afraid to name. 1 step toward healing yourself. 1 quiet refusal to let cynicism have the final word. 1 prayer whispered in the direction of hope. And maybe that is how transformation begins. Not all at once, not through certainty that the world is static, not through being fearless, but through practice, through willingness to change, willingness to be courageous, willingness to be braver today than we were yesterday. Myobi did not become braver because the road became safer. He became braver because he discovered that fear did not have to rule his time on the road. And it does not have to be what limits us. Practice believing 6 impossible things before breakfast, or just 1. May it be so, blessed be, and amen.
I invite you all to rise in body or in spirit as you're able, as we sing number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
After the service, we hope you'll all stay because you're welcome to join us in our community room, Burke Hall. Just follow the crowd, they'll lead the way, and you'll find coffee, bagels, tea, conversation, friendship. If you're new to us, please look for the table that has the connecting table sign above, and there you'll find a friendly face willing to answer any questions you have or have a just nice conversation and an introduction. Please join me in reading the words up on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment, those we carry into our lives until we are together again.
Impossible. Every day we are presented with choices that bring fear into our lives. May we loosen that which fear has bound within us today. May we name that which has followed us across the years. May we reclaim the sacred imagination that is a hallmark of humanity. And may we, like the children we were, but with the lessons of life to inform us, dare to believe that more is possible than we have been told or taught. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.